The New Orleans Saints' latest injury now thrusts a promising defensive veteran into the spotlight.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? I am your host, your Saints reporter, and your friend, Ross Jackson. And today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. If you want to get in on all the action, head over to FanDuel.com to play Daily Dingers, where you can make a pick every day on who's going to hit a homer throughout the MLB season. On today's episode, we're going to take a look at the New Orleans Saints wide receiver and running back depth and how it's being tested very, very much right now with the Saints' health issues. We're going to also take a look at a veteran defensive back that's going to be thrust right into the middle of some big-time action and competition today. We're going to kick everything off with kind of the biggest news story coming out of New Orleans Saints training camp. Quincy Riley out for the foreseeable future, and what that means for veteran cornerback Martin Emerson Jr., who is set to be the next guy to step into the first-team cornerback role. We got all that and a little bit of lanyard for you on today's episode. So let's get into it. The New Orleans Saints are expecting Quincy Riley to miss a matter of a few weeks, according to head coach Kellen Moore. He left the Cowboys Brawls / joint practice with a groin injury. Same, right after or a little bit after Alvin Kamara left with a knee injury. Alvin Kamara is expected to miss up to a month of action, meaning that he could have his week one availability jeopardized. And it sounds like the same expectation is on the way when it comes to cornerback Quincy Riley. When Kellen Moore was asked, New Orleans Saints head coach, about whether or not Quincy Riley's injury could threaten his week one availability, he basically kind of just left the door open. He's kind of like, yeah, it could, maybe, we'll see. And that's kind of what he said as well about a guy like Jordan Tyson. And now Jordan Tyson's expected to miss 2 months. And so with that being the case, Kellen Moore not putting a timeline on anything at this moment, but not saying that it won't be a while either. And so with him being expected to miss at least a few weeks, according to the head coach, that means that veteran cornerback Martin Emerson Jr., who to me was one of the kind of sleeper additions throughout the free agency period, late in the free agency period, is going to be kind of thrust into the spotlight here. A player that he himself is recovering or is just wrapping up the process of having recovered from a major injury that took him out of action all throughout the 2025 season with a torn Achilles that he experienced during training camp. It was July 29th of 2025, so a little bit over a year ago now. He has been somebody that has been surging all the way through training camp, was great in the preseason game that we just watched as well. But of course, has been seeing a lot of his action, not exclusively, but a lot of his action as a second team corner, but has been rotating in with the first team that started even before the Quincy Riley injury during the Dallas Cowboys joint practice, and then continued, of course, after the Quincy Riley injury, which was just two first team reps. Really, it was only one first team series before the practice had actually ended, had come to an end. So an unfortunate timing, an unfortunate injury, of course, for the Saints and Quincy Riley, who's going into his second year after a very strong rookie season and was looking like he was going to be the starting corner week one opposite Kool-Aid McKinstry. There had been no question marks about it. There had been no challengers for him in terms of taking first team roles or first team snaps or anything like that. But now with this injury, it's going to open the door for a guy like Martin Emerson to step in and with his veteran experience, at least hold down the fort or hold the fort for now. And then we'll see what kind of conversation gets started a little bit later on if he plays extremely well. And I got to say, Emerson has been playing well all throughout training camp thus far, particularly here as of late. He had a practice just the week before the Saints came out here to it was a couple practices before the joint practice against the Jaguars, in which he had like 3 or 4 pass breakups, had an interception as well, played really well in that Jaguars game, in that preseason game as well, had a pass breakup or 2 in that matchup, and has continued to be somebody that has been standing out all throughout. And this is a player that does have an impressive past. I mean, look, yeah, he had the training camp injury that was an Achilles injury, but he's played 17, 16, and 17 games throughout his career in 2022, 23, and 24. Just had the major Achilles injury, of course, which, of course, changes the conversation around him, or changed the conversation around him a little bit. But ever since he's come back from that, he's looked really pleasantly surprising so far on the football field, and appears to have kind of not just made the physical recovery from that injury, but also appears to have made the mental recovery from that injury. And he was a guy that Kellen Moore credited just a few days ago with really kind of turning a corner over the course of, at that time, the previous week, which again was kind of leading into those joint practices and then to that impressive performance against the Jaguars in the preseason. Going back through his previous seasons over the course of his career, he's allowed just a 55.5% catch percentage, with his best season coming, and get ready to hear this a lot, with his best season coming in 2023, where he allowed only 49.3% of the passes that went his way to be completed as the nearest defender, according to Pro Football Focus. When it comes to passer rating over the course of the time that he's been targeted throughout his career, just an 83.8 passer rating over the course of his career. Again, best season 2023, 53.3 passer rating when targeted in that season. That year was clearly the best year that he had. He had 14 passes defended. That includes 9 pass breakups. Also, all 4 of his career interceptions came during that season as well. Before he had those interceptions, he had a light target couple of seasons. He was targeted, heavy target couple of seasons. He was targeted 89 times his rookie year, targeted 83 times in 2024, but in 2023 was targeted 79 times. So right all around that same sort of high volume of targets area throughout his career, and he's been able to handle that all throughout. Yards per reception allowed, 11.8. That's not bad when it comes to the outside corner role. And then, his yards after catch allowed always kind of hovers right around 100 to 100, like around, I would say, like an average of 150 yards per season, which again, very good in those scenarios. His average in terms of yards after catch per reception, also very low, so tends to make those tackles at the catch point. So there's a lot to like about what it is that Martin Emerson Jr. can do and has done throughout his career, not the least of which being that he's a 6'2", 201-pound, very physical corner that performs well in both man and in zone. And so the biggest question mark around him was he going to be able to return to form, playing the way that he played as a Cleveland Brown those first 3 years that he was there after the 2025 Achilles injury. And he showed signs so far of being able to potentially do that. And so he's going to be the guy that's going to step immediately into this role. We believe, yes, Isaac Yiadom has more institutional knowledge and the institution has more knowledge of him. But I think that just based on the performances that we've seen so far, and it's no means at all to disparage what it is that Isaac Yiadom has done so far this season. But I mean, everybody has seen these highlight clips and things like that. He tends to be on the receiving side of those. So that's obviously going to color the public perception of him. But even if you remove that, Martin Emerson Jr.'s practices, his appearance during the preseason, his production so far just has been really, really impressive all throughout. So even if you remove or neutralize Isaac Yiadom's performances and you take away the social media clips and everything like that, Emerson has just had a really promising offseason thus far. And now he's going to be the guy that kind of everyone's going to turn to and go, okay, what you got opposite Kool-Aid McKinstry? So expect to see number 22 getting some really important action here soon. And look, he's going to be tested immediately when he steps in, because in today's joint practice, the Los Angeles Rams have some really talented wideouts and a really talented quarterback that Martin Emerson Jr. is going to be able to get an opportunity to lock horns with. Let's get to that next as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Saints is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, the best place to go to get in on all of your action when it comes to the NFL, the NBA, when it rolls right back around, the WNBA, and of course, Major League Baseball as well. And if you're a baseball fan, it's a great time to get involved over at FanDuel because of their free new feature called Daily Dingers. Daily Dingers is awesome. I really love this. It's super simple. It's a free-to-play kind of game. You just log into your FanDuel account, head over to Daily Dingers, and then it's going to give you a list of players that are playing the next day or playing the same day. And all you got to do is pick one of those players that you think might hit a home run. And if you're right, you're going to end up with a profit boost that you can apply to your next bet to give you a chance at even bigger winning. So that's what I love about FanDuel. Always finding ways to make things more creative and even more fun. So if you want to get in on the game and get in on the action, head over to FanDuel.com so that you can play daily dingers and make your free pick at who you think is going to hit a home run. You can head over to FanDuel.com today. Play ball and swing for the fences with FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. All right, family. Martin Emerson Jr. is among one of the players we would love to see shine up against the Los Angeles Rams in their upcoming joint practices because regardless of the health of any of those Los Angeles Rams wide receivers, there's a quarterback over on the other side that is going to test Martin Emerson Jr. big time. Let's get to that and a couple of other players that we're hoping to see shine up against the Rams. We appreciate you very much, as always, for making us a part of your day and a part of your routine, making us your first listen and being an everyday. Our Saints Hit is on the way. I'm not going to lie to you. We had a little bit of a host swap, but I think you're going to be very pleased with the new host, too. I promise it's not still me. I'm not just building up to some random big reveal that it's me doing these shows. And so you can head over to Locked On Saints Hit, wherever you get your podcasts, on YouTube, all across social media. Lots of good stuff, fun stuff on the way there so that you can get subscribed to that for when we finally get our opportunity to drop all of that. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts, on YouTube or your favorite social media, here as a part of the #1 sports podcast network, the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Martin Emerson Jr. is going to jump right into the fire and the flames when it comes to the Los Angeles Rams joint practice later on today. And he's a player that I think a lot of Saints fans are going to be hoping to be written about as a standout, or, I hope to come on this show on Friday and talk about as a standout when it comes to that joint practice. Look, there's been some question marks about the availability of Puka Nacua and everything like that. He had some injuries. He's also had a lot of off-field stuff, contract, this, that, and the other. Whole lot of stuff going on there. And so we'll see what the availability looks like when it comes to that. But still a really talented wide receiver room that includes new investments like CJ Daniels, but also really good veterans like Devontae Adams and others, these guys that are able to come in and stretch the field and be able to kind of, elite route runners, tough hands catchers, all of that. Also a really good tight end room over there as well with Higbee, Ferguson, and all these other guys. And they also added a couple of tight ends, and Max Clare, who we really liked in the draft process, and all that out of Ohio State. So lots of good pass catchers in this Sean McVay offense. But beyond all of that is the quarterback. And if it is an on day for Matthew Stafford, they've been kind of doing like a day or two on, a day or two off. But I assume that with the joint practice, they're going to get him involved there to get him some work against another team's first team defense. I think that's going to be valuable for them. It's going to be a chance for Martin Emerson Jr. to potentially shine. And so this is going to be a very interesting one. You want him to come out of this practice having matched up well against whatever receivers are out there and Matthew Stafford. I think that's got to be the big thing. And remember, the last time that the Saints had a joint practice against the Rams, the Saints defense got diced up when it came to the first team defense. The second team and third team defense gave Stetson Bennett all kinds of problems, Jimmy Garoppolo all kinds of problems and everything like that. But like Matthew Stafford didn't have a lot of trouble moving the football down the field. And the Saints have been impressive here so far throughout these last couple of joint practices. I mean, Trevor Lawrence got his in the red zone, but outside of that, Saints defense stood up pretty well. Dak Prescott got his on a few different occasions, particularly early on in practice and early on in the red zone drills, but the Saints kind of buckled down on the defensive side as the day continued to go on. I think this one's really going to come down to blending those two as best as you can. Can you get a fast start against the Rams in this joint practice? And also, can you come up with some of these big kind of growth opportunities that we've been looking at, red zone, downfield defense, all these other things. And so Martin Emerson Jr., of course, is going to be a big part of that, right? Man coverage in the red zone plays to his strength. And then how are you going to look stepping into the first team unit where you haven't had a lot of exposure, not zero exposure. Remember, they've been rotating him in already anyway, particularly over the course of this joint practice, most recent joint practice against the Cowboys. But how do you look kind of running this zone-heavy Brandon Staley scheme against Matthew Stafford, who's seen it all across the NFL? And so this is going to be a good opportunity, a good measuring stick for him, and a little bit of a maybe baptism by fire in terms of coming in and immediately drawing first-team reps against the Los Angeles Rams. Might mean that he ends up taking even more steps forward once he is challenged in that way against what is a very good offense over here in Los Angeles. Beyond just him, though, there are other players that you'd like to continue to see step up. I'm going to throw Kendre Miller back into the conversation here, right? Kendre came back up against the Dallas Cowboys and had a pretty good day. I highlighted him as a standout yesterday, whenever the day I did standouts where everything's kind of running together, because I feel like every day I come on here and I'm like, well, there's another injury. It's all the shows kind of run together now. But the Kendre Miller situation here is that he's back from injury. A back injury, no pun intended. And he is somebody that looked really good against the Dallas Cowboys, had some nice runs. And again, like I say this all the time with him, it's never about whether or not the talent is there. It's always about whether or not you're going to get to see it, right? Whether or not it's going to be on the field. And so now that he's here and on the field again, can he stay on the field and can he continue to produce? He had some nice stuff up against the Cowboys. Now let's see what it is that he's able to do up against the Rams. Another player that you're going to be looking for to continue to shine, and really I'm just going to throw the pair of players in there, Tyler Shuck, Chris Olave. Those guys put together stellar joint practices against the Jaguars, another stellar joint practice against the Cowboys. Can they go 3 for 3? Can they get it done and continue to show up when they're facing guys in new uniforms or different uniforms? They have been so fun to watch and so excellent over the course of all this. And honestly, I wonder if the Saints even go so far as to say, like, they brought in guys like Chase Claypool and Josh Reynolds over the course of the past couple of days for tryouts. I think those are more guys to kind of help you get through camp at this point because your numbers are dwindling. I wonder if you kind of rest Chris Olave here and you say, you know what? You know what you got in Chris Olave. You know what you got in that connection with Tyler Shuck. Give Tyler Shuck more opportunities to work with Devaughn Vele, Barion Brown, Bryce Lance, and then you bring in another guy that helps you continue to keep the numbers of the rotation, grants more opportunity for guys like Kevin Austin Jr. and Bub Means and all that. I think that wouldn't be the worst idea ever, is to at least limit Chris Olave a little bit. But Chris Olave is a competitor. He's not going to want that. He's going to want to be out on the field. So if he's out there and if he's performing, going to be another one that you're going to want to see stand out and continue to stand out. Speaking of going 3 for 3, can Julian Blackmon go 3 for 3? Joint practice against the Jaguars, interception. Joint practice against the Cowboys, interception. Joint practice against the Rams, can he do it? Terrell Burgess, Jordan Howden, each got interceptions last year in their practice against the Rams. Can Jordan Howden go 3 for 3? That'll be another one that we're definitely going to be looking out for. And then I'm going to put one more player in here that I'm a little bit surprised that he had as quiet a day as he did against the Cowboys. And that's Michael Heldman. Can he rebound a little bit going up against the Los Angeles Rams? Now, the Los Angeles Rams don't have a lot of depth on their offensive line. You can check out our friends over at Locked on Rams, Travis Rogers, right now Gavin Carlson. These guys have been talking a lot about the concerns behind Alaric Jackson. Alaric Jackson potentially dealing with a suspension. He's the guy that typically lines up at one of those tackle spots, particularly the left tackle spot. Very important when you have a quarterback that's dealing with back injuries and things like that your blindside protector be very good. They have a lot of concerns about the depth behind them. Michael Heldman's not going to get first team reps. So if he gets second or third team reps, he's going up against those those tackles that the Rams people are concerned about. And so can he make those plays and continue the really, really impressive performance that he put up against the the Jacksonville Jaguars here up against Los Angeles Rams? I think when you listen to Mike Heldman talk about how that Jaguars game went, the flow of it, to where during the joint practice, he said he got embarrassed because things didn't necessarily go his way. He missed on a couple of things. He had a play he was supposed to drop back in the coverage in. He didn't drop back. He had a play to where he was supposed to play the run a certain way, and he was playing the run as if it was a pass. He thought it was a passing play, and so he kind of attacked. And because he did that, a running back just kind of went right past his hip and then ended up getting a run. He said he felt embarrassed by that. Goes out there up against the Jags in the preseason game early on, getting into the bull rush as a power rusher, arms get swiped. He's falling down on the ground. He's like, man, this is embarrassing. And then so what did he do? He changed up his pass rush plan. He went in, he showed power, but then he used finesse to get around the edge, ran the arc, got 2 sacks on the day. Really intelligent player. Really, really intelligent player to kind of cycle through all of that as an undrafted free agent and put all those free agent rookie and put all of those things together. Now he gets a chance to do it up against an offensive line that a lot of folks in Los Angeles are very concerned about Can he do it? That's going to be another guy that we're looking to stand out, along with the guys that you're typically looking for standing out anyway. Carl Granderson, Chase Young, all of that, right? This is a short list. There are many other players. Make sure you send me the players that you are looking for to stand out as well. All right, coming up next, let's take a look at why the wide receivers and running backs, the depth is getting tested, and they've got a lot to prove in both of those rooms. Let's get to that next as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. What's going on, everybody? My name is Ross Jackson, host of the Locked On Saints podcast, and today's Locked On episode is brought to you by our friends at Basque and Lather. I've been using Basque and Lather's all-natural, 100% organic hair care products for my beard for a couple of years now, and it's been a lifesaver because I used to have some bad beard care habits. I'm talking over-the-counter shampoo in the beard type stuff that created this brittle, scratchy, and uncomfortable beard that I just had to wear around all the time. But now the game done changed. Thanks to Basque and Lather, I got their beard care starter kit, which gave me shampoo, conditioner, oil balm, and their hair growth stimulator formula as well. And now my beard is full. It's soft but strong, and the confidence is on 10, and it's all thanks to Basque and Lather. Explore viral bestsellers and products of healthier hair of all types from Basque and Lather. Go to basqueandlatherco.com and use the promo code LOCKEDON for 20% off. That's 20% off at basqueandlatherco.com, code LOCKEDON. Let's get it, Who Dat Nation. The New Orleans Saints and Los Angeles Rams will be locking horns, no pun intended, on later on today. And it's going to be up to a couple of really young players to kind of bolster a pair of units that are dealing with quite a bit of injury, wide receiver and running back. Let's take a look at the test ahead for them. We appreciate you very much, as always, making us your first listen and being an everydayer on the show. For your second listen, make sure you go and check out our good friend Matt Moscona over at Locked On LSU, getting you ready for that LSU football season. You can also catch us daily on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network between 10 o'clock and noon, along with Locked On Pelicans and Locked On SEC. The young wide receivers in the Saints wide receiver room obviously now set to be put to the test. They are going to be moving up guys like Bryce Lance and Barion Brown, these rookies, and they're going to be matching up with some pretty talented corners that the Rams just went and invested in. Guys like Trent McDuffie, a guy like Watson. I always get the first name confused. Jaden Watson, they do all that because there's the running back that's also a Watson, or Warren, and so Jalen Watson. I always get the last name confused, actually, is what it is now I'm thinking about it. But anyway, really talented secondary there, and a pretty good one. Like guys like Quentin Lake that can fit in at that star/slot position, talented safeties as well. So a pretty good secondary that was a very, very weak one last year. And so now, with the improvements that they've made, with the investments that the Rams have put in the secondary, that is creating a bit of competition for the Saints, who invested in the opposite position, the wide receivers. Bryce Lance, Barion Brown, those guys, young guys coming in now with a larger set of responsibilities, getting more first-team reps, building chemistry with Tyler Shuck, all of that. They'll get their opportunity to do that today against some really quality talent over on the perimeters, over on the inside, and deep down the field as well. So with the Jordan Tyson injury, Devaughn Vele got a little bit of rest a few days ago. He should be back up against the Rams. Maybe Olave is a little bit throttled down. We'll see how they end up handling all of that. And then you have these other guys in Kevin Austin Jr. and Ronnie Bell, Bub Means, and all these other players that are trying to make a name for themselves. Jalen Cropper, Mason Tipton, whenever he makes it back, Brock Rexsteiner when he's German suplexing people, all that. Like, you have these guys that are all going to be ready to go out there and try to prove something. But this depth in the wide receiver room is starting to thin. And that's really concerning, because now, like, as the wide receiver room gets thinner and thinner and thinner, the next injury or the next possible injury ends up happening to somebody that contributes, because everybody is getting to the point where they are contributing. I'm talking about in a training camp environment. And so the pressure is on for the Saints wide receivers to produce and contribute, but also stay healthy. And the same thing is true for the running back room, because not only is Alvin Kamara out for the foreseeable future, but Audric Estime is out for a little bit. He's dealing with an injury as well after he caught that pass in the flat that left him wide open for a hit over on the hip, and that ended up creating an issue for him. And so now he's dealing with something as well, and who knows how long he's going to be out, potentially weeks. We'll see. Kellen Moore asked if that was if that was going to potentially cost him his opening, availability or early in the season. And Kellen Moore, again, not putting a timeline on it, right? Yeah, maybe we'll see, right? And so kind of feeling all of these things out. And so with all of that, Kendre Miller, Devin Neal, Ty Chandler, and CJ Donaldson are all guys that are different variations of young, right? Either they're young in the league or they're young to or new to the Saints system. Those guys end up falling into kind of the focus of what the running back room looks like in its future. So while Alvin Kamara is sidelined, while Audric Estime is sidelined, it comes down to these players behind Travis Etienne Jr. to make something of this opportunity that they have in first team reps, right behind Travis Etienne Jr., in concert with Travis Etienne Jr. in certain situations as well. And so the wide receiver room and the running back rooms, and now kind of the cornerback room with just one injury, is being tested when it comes to the depth. And that testing comes down to, okay, do you have the talent to hang on to this team as a top depth piece? But now also, do you have the talent to make plays and produce when you're in the action? So those are going to be some of the big things that we're going to be watching up against the Rams. Now, let's get to a little bit of lanyard for the real ones made it to this point in the episode. I want to go back to the fights, if you don't mind, just for a second. I'm not really going to talk about the fights themselves, but the battling, the brawling, the squabbling, the scuffling, the kerfuffling, whatever it is that you want to call it, between the Saints and the Cowboys. Whole lot of noise out there of who's at fault, who started it, who's in the wrong, all these other things. Here's my not concession, because I'm not conceding anything, but here's my offer to that conversation. Maybe competition is good, and maybe physicality in a physical sport is okay. Now, good point made by Rocco over on Twitter with NOF. Getting hurt, not an option in these situations, right? You can't fight to the point where you're going to end up getting hurt. But maybe there's a larger lesson to be learned between what happened between the Saints and Cowboys. And look, ideally, that doesn't happen between the Saints and Rams. It didn't happen at all. There was one moment against the Saints, between the Saints and the Jaguars, and that was it. It was squashed very quickly, and then no issues after that. Cowboys practice again and again and again and again. And I get it. It can be annoying. It can be frustrating as a fan. You get an opportunity to go and see your favorite team play, and they're fighting more than they're playing football, which, again, kudos to both teams for actually getting football in between the brawls. But perhaps there's a larger lesson to be taken from all of this, which is that, yeah, you can go in there and have these fights and all these other things, but still getting the work done, but refocusing and being able to execute, but bringing everybody back together and getting those plays run again. Look, typically you don't want people going to the ground during practices. Sometimes during joint practices, somebody goes to the ground. When that happens, everybody kind of gets mad. It creates a thing. Were there too many fights? Yeah, 100%. Far too many. After a point, it was like, okay, this is ridiculous. Like, am I being punked? Is this a joke? You know what I mean? Like, that's all fair, and that's all fair. But before we start kind of clutching pearls around the situation, maybe it's just kind of okay that physical guys playing a physical sport got physical because they also got right by the time that it was all said and done, right? All the fighting stopped. There were a couple of little scuffles here and there, little disagreements, I would call them. Ain't no thing. You can keep moving from all that. But for the most part, like, these guys on both sides still got a lot of work done. I think there's value in that. Ideally, you ain't got to worry about it here between the Saints and the Rams. Saints and the Rams have practiced against one another. They did it last year as well, and nothing. There were no issues like that. I expect that we'll see the same thing here again. But, maybe just for a little one-off between the Saints and Cowboys to fend off some frustration, maybe you throw a helmet every now and then, huh? Maybe you throw a helmet every now and then. All right, coming up in tomorrow's episode, we'll get you caught up on everything from the New Orleans Saints joint practice up against the Los Angeles Rams. We appreciate you very much, as always, making us a part of your day, part of your routine, for saying yes to me on the show. If you see me, please say hi. And if you need anything else around your New Orleans Saints in between these episodes, make sure you follow me on your favorite social media at Ross Jackson, NOLA. Hit me up. Let me know how the family's doing, how you living. Let me know how you're momming them. And trust you, that nation. I'll holla at you.